Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager 24, episode number 20. Regarding the research for our next gen, I've done some more calculations, number crunching. Here's where I'm at on things. As much as I'd like to diversify and spread hours around, the cost of projects up front and the initial gain without putting hours into it, it's costly and the gain is minimal. But once you throw hours at it, it becomes astronomically, exponentially better. Going all in on one upgrade at a time right now is the most financially secure way of doing it. Now, of course, I already mentioned that upgrades on this year's car, well, that's a different matter. That's a totally different matter. And does have value because the hours don't matter quite as much. The baseline upgrade is pretty significant. The baseline for the research projects is very minor. It's the hours that really pushes it. And it's the opposite for the upgrade. The baseline, doing an upgrade, is going to be significant. You add hours to it, it helps, but it only helps so much. And then, of course, the return in future seasons is largely negated because, well, we're seeing that major overhaul and there's a big drop. But so for the moment, I'm going to do one big mega research project with all of the hours each time. There's definitely more than 6 ATR periods, so we're going to be able to get through all 6 components at least once through this method. Now, with the number crunching, here's where I'm at on things. I've got a baseline for all of the components, and the baseline, the easiest method on the baseline, is the ones that have a percentage, because while I've tweaked a few things in season 1 to benefit the strength of a component, for the most part I haven't altered it too much. You can see, like, on the chassis, I focused a little bit more on drag reduction and airflow than I have on, like, say, DRS Delta, because of where the impact is. Now, I'm down to a range of 20 to 23%. Remember, the chassis is the one that's taking the big 70% hit, where everything else is taking a 50% hit. My start point, where we are at on the chassis right now, minus any upgrades between now and the end of the season, which, like I said, I'm going to focus on the wings anyway, but 46 to 48% is where I'm at now. 20 to 23 is where we're going to be. That is a 26% drop. So ignore the 50% chatter, right? I've done the calculations of knowing how much is being lost. So one mega upgrade to the chassis is going to recover 15%. 15 of the 26% that's being lost. So one more major chassis research project will cover it. But I'm noticing the others are definitely getting closer, and this is certainly over halfway, right? 15 of 26. The front wing is losing just 16. Rear wing's losing 20, as I've put a little more into the rear wing to get the top speed up over the last 2 seasons. Side pods is 15. The suspension is 15. The underfloor, which we've already started our first research project on, was 21. The underfloor project, where we put all of our hours into it recently, is 12 and a half. So we're covering off definitely more than half. So the first research project is going to cover off more than half of what we've lost on everything. Now, as we get down to the final stretch, we may have to cough up some money to make more things happen, right? Make more research projects happen and get those minimal gains so we can try to get back to where the car was, or at least get close. But initially, 6 mega research projects is going to be the way to go. And as of course I noted, the upgrades are still going to be there. I want to focus on the wings. We didn't have the cash before. We do now have the cash, as we did receive a sponsor payout. So after the research project, I've got 6.3 million left. It's going to cost me 1.8 for a front wing design. And here, unlike with the research, where we want to just recover what's being lost and keep it balanced and do everything, and last I knew that was broken anyway. It wasn't changing whatever you change, at least in last year's edition. I haven't heard about this year's, but anyway, Low speed is the best benefit you get out of the front wing, so we're going to go maxing that one out, keeping everything else balanced. It's going to get us a 0.050 G advantage in low speed cornering. So round 11 in the books, with Leclerc taking the win, Tsunoda getting the fastest lap, and Hamilton getting on the podium, with Sainz, Albon, Russell, Bottas, Norris, Vesti, and Gasly getting up there. So RB and Williams and Haas securing points. Definitely not your usual race weekend for that one. We get 18th and 19th. Oedekoven started from 18th. Venter starting at the back. It's Stroll, Pourchaire, Lawson all DNFing. Venter a couple laps down and way off pace. Her best lap was a second slower than Oedekoven. So did something happen with Venter early on that saw her stay off the pace throughout the race? Very well could have been, but even Oedekoven couldn't do anything. Did they collide with each other and Oedekoven was just a little less damaged? Could be the case, I suppose. I'll see how badly the part replacement is going to end up being on us. Either way, it's enough to at least secure our bonus. We get our 900k, but we do not beat any teams today. Part replacement comes down to just a front wing and underfloor for Venter. So certainly nothing that involved Oedekoven, I guess. But here's the thing about Spielberg. It's probably the easiest track to drive on the grid because it's the shortest lap. There's only that handful of corners. It's very easy to master. With such a short lap, you take so many laps that you really get this track down before you, in comparison to other tracks. It's really easy to nail. I'd say in the F1 game, it was certainly the first track that I really locked down, and most years in the F1 game it's probably the first one that I'm scoring points in. Doing something similar as this, kind of building from the back and working your way up and building up a car that's competitive, and then all of a sudden you're securing points. And generally this is that first time. So I think a bigger key to this race, besides having a quality driver, is having a quality car. We just don't have one, so it makes sense that we're towards the back. Why Venter is so far off the pace? Well, it looks like probably too much curb. Driver development update. Into the month of July, Venter gets a +1 to defending and +1 to accuracy, where Oedekoven continues to just fly. +1 to cornering, +1 to braking. 94 in braking now. It's just crazy. Defending +1 and accuracy +1. I wonder, is there anything? Adaptability is a +1 for Venter. Smoothness is a +3 for Venter. Control is a +5. And they are level on cornering. That's a +10 to Oedekoven in braking, though. Checking in on the pit crew by the end of July, even though we have 3 races this month, which doesn't leave a lot of time for training. We're supposed to get +1s, nearly +2s in the pit crew attributes, bringing them up to just about 79 across the board. The car release is a tenth or two behind. It's always been offset. It was higher for a long time, but I had to trade it a little bit less to get the others balanced. Anyway, nearly maxed out, as our cap is 81 right now, but that does get us down to 7.83% when we are in the well-rested category. We're never in the well-rested by Sunday, though, so we're always a step higher. And when you have that step higher tired, well, it's not making it much worse. We're talking about 8%. Pretty low chance, but mistakes do happen. For one thing, the pit crew has 5 things, right? 5 things that they're being tested on, with each having a roughly 8% chance of, no, that's across the board, 8%, right? Yeah, that's only across the board. But every time we have a pit stop, there's about an 8% chance. So, I mean, in theory, you should have 1 every 10 pit stops or so. And if you get 4 pit stops in a race, the odds are pretty good that every couple of races, or every 3rd race, should have a mistake. And our rate of mistake is not much worse than that. I'd say it's probably every other race instead of every third, but we're definitely getting up there. The car building's slowly getting better. It's almost into the 60s now, and it's higher than it was a year ago. In fact, the pit crew attributes are all higher than they were a year ago at the end of the year now. So we've improved chances of mistakes and the car building, and the estimated pit stop time has improved to a 2.56 now. A very solid number, higher than we ever were last year. We were like a 2.6 flat at the end of the year. And yet, last year, where we, I don't know, scored about 49, 50 points, maybe 54 points in the fastest pit stop competition, not one this year. Not a single point. We have not cracked the top 10 pit stops in a single race. We've had a number of 2.4s, 4 or 5 of them throughout the season, and not one of those were good enough to crack the top 10. So the rest of the field left us in the dust when it came to the pit stops. They have improved. Yeah, we're lagging behind, but at least the chance of mistake is really cut down. We can be consistent with decent stops. Well, take that for now, but we're trying to improve that pit stop time in comparison to everybody else. I'd love to get that down into the 2.3s in the next year or two. Looking at my scouting pool here for a second, we have our 2 hired drivers. We have a few expired. That's our old affiliates that we started the game with. Joyce Jacobson is the one that we had last year. The scouting state is expired. I probably need to renew that here before too long, as she's left the team. She's a 66 overall right now, but she's in the Ferrari Academy. So looking at the rest of the scouted drivers, we got anywhere from like a 48 overall to some 59s. There are a couple of 62s in Nui and Poling, but they are already affiliated with others, and at least at this moment. Later in the season, if we have some spare cash, we'll worry about that. But what I'm worried about is development, and free agency definitely goes against development. You need to be in a team. You need to get in a simulator to have a chance. And 4 of them are free. 5 of them are free agents. We got a 53, a 54, a 59, and a 57. Oh, and then one more. So yeah, a 5th one, Flourish, a 59. Now, 24 years of age already, 59 overall. They kind of did her dirty because her rating started worse this year than it started last year, and yet last year in real life compared to the year prior, last year she had a pretty good F3 season, performed pretty well, scored quite a few points, showed that she had developed, and then they lowered her rating. Strange one as that may be, she is the highest rated and has the history in this series, or at least in F1 Manager 23. So Flourish as a free agent, we want to resolve that here as quickly as possible. So we're going to see if we can bring her in as an affiliate driver and help her get back into developing. British Grand Prix, Silverstone is next for us, and this is the halfway point of the season following this race. So the current engine, ERS, and gearbox could all be retired and moved on to the next one, the 3rd iteration, or 2nd in the case of the ERS. Yeah, both drivers are kind of right there and hanging in there. I could probably get away with doing one more race with those and preserving what we need down the stretch late in the season by just a little bit. So I'm really happy with where we're at this moment. I think one thing that has really helped this series do better than our initial kind of season 1 version is some of the bugs that have been fixed, in particular the car setup one. I can skip all the practice sessions and do a single adjustment to car setup, and sometimes you're going to get it right and sometimes you're not. In the case of Otokoven, it's at 75%. In the case of Vinter, we nailed it, 97%, near 100%, and there's a fair bit of guesswork because it's really not narrowed down that much except for in a couple of areas when you're skipping all the practice sessions. And yeah, okay, we qualified 21st, 22nd anyway. Our car doesn't have the pace. It's the ability of our drivers to go out and do more than other drivers around us. But that car setup bonus still makes the drivers even stronger, right? We're looking at Winter with +3s and 2s to her attributes. It's still high confidence with a couple +3s and a lot of +2s for Oudekhoven as well, because the car setup bonus is helps more for Winter today. But Oudekhoven's a really good driver, and they're both going to fare well. It does make a difference. It does make a difference. And with that initial bug where it was not saving the changes you were making, and the car setup would just stay identical after FP1 for the entire race weekend, that was harsh because you had no bonuses at all. We've got good drivers that are also getting bonuses now. They tend to perform well in the race. Not so much in qualifying. Our car's slow. The raw pace of the car is not as good as the others. But when you get to the race day, the accuracy, braking today at a 98 for Oudekhoven, I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy good. She goes out and performs well. So it's another win for Sainz. He's had quite a few this year. Not quite like Max Verstappen a year ago, but 8 or 9 wins in 12 races. Leclerc and Hamilton both on the podium. Gio getting 4th. That's one of his highest finishes of the year. Has he even had a podium? I think he's had one. Hulkenberg in the Kick Sauber, though, takes 6th place. They really have improved their car because he's been up there in probably 3 of the last 5 races and not just getting 1 or 2 points. He's been up there, leaving us pretty far behind in our 11th place for this season. We're really, really going to need to step it up with the car development for next year, the research. And we just did not have the pace here. Oudekhoven gets 20th. Winter gets 21st. We were nearly a second off the pace, or at least a half second off the pace of all the cars in front of us. Even at our best, Winter was another half second down compared to Oudekhoven. We kept it within a lap. Woohoo! But we were last on track. Loss in DNFing does not help us out. That's another 11th place finish. Back-to-back 11th place finishes. And right now it shows that the car just does not have the pace that we need it to have. So Sauber scores 8 points, now have 9 on the season. Alpine have 3. We have 1. It's going to be real hard to beat even Alpine at this point. And RB and Kick Sauber probably already have more points than I would imagine we will be capable of scoring all season. The one thing that gives me some hope is that there are a couple tracks out there, like Singapore still to come, that are very, very driver dependent. Hungary is pretty driver dependent. And overtaking can be very hard. So a good strategy and a very good driver like Oudekhoven maybe could surprise and score some points. But it's going to be damn hard for us to get anywhere near 10 points this season. 1 might be all we manage. I think there is hope of seeing another race in the second half where we score some points, but it's not looking too great for that at the moment. No sooner do I say we haven't had a single race where we've gotten into the points in the fastest pit stop. We have our first of the year. Oudekhoven had a 2.424. Not the greatest stop we've had this season, but for the race, it was good. Just a little over a tenth faster than what our average is. We had 1 stop that was just a hair below what our average is, and 2 slow stops, so like well off the pace, slow stops. At the halfway point, the 1 driver versus the 2 driver, with the 1 driver having the better car, is proven to be a very close contest. Red Bull have a 10-point advantage over Ferrari in the constructors at the halfway stage, and Mercedes very much find themselves in near touching distance of the top 2, certainly capable of getting into it if they were to have the development on the current car and not focusing on research for next year. That's going to be one of those big things, is who's going to make the upgrades here and now. It seems like Kick Sauber is still trying to pump out upgrades on this year's car, and it's definitely helping them get more competitive and have essentially moved up from last place to 9th already and look like they could be poised to heading, to 8th and competing with the back of the grid. Williams, though, is the clear favorite for that first team outside of the regular points getters. But after that, the battle seems to be open for 7th between Haas, RB, and now Kick Sauber, with Alpine and us, the ones struggling at the back. There has been a vote on a change to parts limits for next year. No change to the gearbox or ERS limits, but a decrease of 1 in the engine limit. So from 4 to 3, and with a 6-5 vote, it has been decided that it will happen. So we're going to lose an engine for next year, which means we're going to be taking a penalty and a $5 million hit times 2, so a $10 million hit at some stage during the season. It does mean that preseason wise we'll save some money, but I don't know if it's going to be 10 million in savings. I don't know if you get a discount on the initial set or if we're actually paying that same 10 million at that point. There's no way 3 engines are going to last the entire year. Hungary, round 13. I put the new components on everything because the board said we've had poor performance lately. We'd like to see double or nothing, or times 2 plus or minus with the outcome of the race, and we've been doing poorly lately. So I'm like, okay, I know we need this. We need this. With the new components, I'm hoping we can be successful. It's a bad sign so far that, well, I mean, finishing in the top 10 is pretty unexpected, but Kick Sauber's in the points again, so they really have kicked on and put together a winning car. Just 6 cars on the lead lap. RB also getting up there. Please, Otakoven, come in just outside of the top 10 and get us what we needed for this. Well, it's not looking good because there's Alpine already as well. There's Haas. It's Otakoven in 16th, but we don't beat a single team. We do not beat a single team. Winter DNFs with the brand new components. Poor share. Gio out. Magnussen. Bottas and Albon behind us. I mean, it's a good result, but we beat 0 teams. So we're going to take a double hit for not succeeding on this one. And then we're only getting paid from 1, so we only get 450K. And then Winter DNS probably destroys brand new freaking components. This race is as costly as they come to us. It was right at the beginning of the race, as Winter didn't even have a pit stop. Otakoven 3 stops and a mistake on the day on the car release. Mid-season board review. They are not happy. They are not happy. This could be putting us in a spot of bother. Board confidence has been comfortable and medium all season long. 3 bad race weekends, and all of a sudden the board confidence is low. 4 straight failures overall, so from a good stretch to uh-oh. We are at least back to satisfied on the debt. That's a big help, but race performance is actually still coming in as satisfied. It's just the below target that's kind of offsetting. We are in a real spot of bother right now, though. Otakoven, 2 parts fail, rear wing side pods. Let's see what happens with Winter, though. Winter, underfloor is missing, so that's good. That's all that happened here. Definitely need a new underfloor, though, manufacturing-wise. Oh, we definitely took a hit, though. Brand new engine, brand new gearbox. Both of them lost, I would say, 30%, as it looks like this was a lap 1 incident where qualifying was all we had done. I put the new components on at qualifying. At least a 25% loss is the minimum to both. The ERS at least remains untouched, but that's going to hurt. We're going to have to probably spread the love a little bit on the engine and the gearbox. 1 race towards the old second set or something along those lines to get us through. For comparison, after the race, Otakoven's at 95, 96, 95. Confirmation of a pretty significant drop in performance of the components. Lando Norris has won the Belgian Grand Prix here at Spa-Francorchamps. Norris, Williams, 25 points. Not the fastest lap. Sainz gets that, but he loses by a quarter of a second. That's crazy. Leclerc and Hamilton, though, doing what they do, right? They combined for 27 points. Sainz gets 19. That's why Ferrari continues to stay in this. The shocking thing is the occasional result by a very overrated driver in Gio. I don't know why anybody had any faith in him. He wasn't doing anything. Last season he had a couple of results. He was in that seat way too long. Anyway, surprised to see him back on the grid. Really surprised to see him back on the grid. I suppose he was a reserve driver still after getting released, right? And that's what kept him in the driver pool. It'd be nice if you got like Formula E and the proper F1 Academy and all of those in here. It would be really nice if we could actually drive F3, F2 and work your way up the grid, even if you had to do it in a more realistic manner where you had to bounce from team to team. But I'd love to have the like career mode aspect of rising up the ranks. It would be really cool to start as an engineer in F3 as like the ultimate challenge, right? You're an engineer at the lowest level, and then you work your way up to like F2 as an engineer for a year, and there's just smaller aspects like meta kind of gaming things where it's just pit crew stuff. Otherwise the races are simulated, so you're through a season in half an hour, and and then you promote from the bottom of the grid to the top of the grid to a better F3 team the next season, and you're through that in half an hour, and then you're in F2 for half an hour, and then now you're making a choice between continuing on to F1 or up the grid in F2, or you get a team principal offer down in F3, and then you work your way up. And again, those are more decision based, or once you get team principal, then you can do the races. But even for those lower levels, I wouldn't mind if it's just moments, right, where you have choice of XYZ moments to make things happen, and you've got to react fast because pit stops are involved, or giving your driver some sort of commands about going for overtakes and planned results, and just some sort of side mini game that turns that experience into maybe an hour or 2 hours of gameplay until you actually get into the F1 grid, and then you play the game normal. It would be cool to have something along those lines. Anyway, if not a full experience of F2, F3, F1 Academy, etc. Mercedes, RB, round out the points on this one. The missing, and Aston Martin, there's plenty of drivers missing from that top 10. Fingers crossed, though. We are desperate for a result from our team, and it's not coming here. Magnussen gets 11th for Kicksauber. Gio is 12th. Lawson. Vinter gets 15th. That's a good result, but holy crap, where is Oedekoven? Please show up to the party. We've beaten one Aston Martin, but not the other. We've beaten one Kicksauber, but not the other. We've beaten one Haas. I think we might be ahead of 2 Alpines. We are. We're ahead of 2 Alpines. We got 10th today. Oedekoven does DNF. Oedekoven was a good half second faster than Vinter. Probably was higher up the grid, 13th, 14th. That sucks. That is 20th, though. We should get our 900k payout. Ricardo, Vesti, DNFing. Alonso, back of the grid. So, yeah, one team behind us. Woohoo! Yeah, Oedekoven's DNF was mid-race. Probably a crash. I doubt it was components, as it was, all second race stuff. Let's hope that it hasn't taken a huge hit and that both drivers are going to have a problem into the second half of the season. We'll find out about that next time, though. We are heading into the summer break. I think that's a good stopping point for now. It's been a rough last 5 races. We are definitely going through something right now. Team's going through a funk. Let's hope they can bounce back and do a little bit better. We will have at least one upgrade coming to the car. We'll have more coming eventually. I've been saving money for a little bit for a facility upgrade that is needed. You'll see why. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.